After 20 years at Manchester United, Marcus Rashford is closing in on a move to Aston Villa. And as United are beaten at home again, the chances of signing a forward are fading with a little over 24 hours of the window to go. Welcome to the Transfer Show. We're into our final hour tonight. Mathys Tel could be the player to watch over the next 24 hours, and Aston Villa are gearing up for a very busy deadline day. Arsenal are celebrating a huge win over Manchester City. They were 5-1 winners at the Emirates, and Mikel Arteta hasn't given up on bringing in a forward. And Tottenham had to hijack Wolves' move for Patrick Danso to get a defender in. And Ange Postecoglou said this evening he wants at least one more signing. OK, let's start with Manchester United and that growing possibility there won't be any forwards coming into the club on deadline day. Kaveh, what's your understanding?
Well, I think we should start off by talking about Mathys Tel. And I think the most illuminating way to look at this potential deal is to look at exactly what Sky Germany are reporting, because a couple of our reporters at Sky Germany have brilliant contacts at Bayern Munich, and all the information about this potential deal is coming out of Bayern Munich. Manchester United, Arsenal are not saying very much. Now, this evening, Sky Germany are reporting just now that negotiations between Manchester United and Bayern Munich for Tel have collapsed. And they are also saying the player himself wants to move to Manchester United, but Bayern Munich are not willing to let him go just on loan, because last week they had an offer of £50 million permanent deal. So Bayern Munich saying, look, we understand you want to go to Manchester United, but you're not just going there with a loan and an option. We want something more concrete. Interestingly, Sky Germany also say Arsenal are still in the race to sign Mathys Tel. Now, I don't have information on whether he wants to go to Arsenal, but I'm presuming that if he wants to move to Manchester United, he would also want to go to Arsenal, especially if he watched their performance against Manchester City today.
Mark, there was no Joshua Zirkzee, there was no Rasmus Højlund in Ruben Amorim's starting 11 against Crystal Palace this afternoon. What message was he sending there?
I think that was a clear message from the Manchester United head coach to say, I'm not entirely comfortable with the options I have as number nines. That's why I'm prepared to play Kobbie Mainoo as a false number nine. You had Ahmad on one hand, you had obviously Alejandro Garnacho playing on the other side as well. But the fact that you're playing two of your key strikers from the bench shows you actually, I'm not happy, and we've still got 24 plus hours to try and get something sorted. Therefore, my message to the hierarchy at this football club is try and sort this out, because this could be the difference between us finishing strongly this season and not. I want a striker. I'm not comfortable with the ones I have. Therefore, let's try and get something sorted. Now, of course, this was a big topic of conversation in the post-match press conference. Not only the fact that they lost at Old Trafford today, but the fact that they didn't score any goals without a recognised striker on the pitch. And as we say, journalists ready to ask that question to the Manchester United boss to try and get his thoughts and understanding as to why he went with the starting 11 he did. Here's what he said in the post-match press conference.
Yeah, we have to improve as a team to score goals, and we are trying the best to improve the team. This market is really hard on the clubs. To make some deals here, it's hard. Then you have this urgency. Sometimes when you are in these moments, you make some mistakes. We are trying everything, yes. We want so bad to improve. I want so bad to improve the team. I know what the team needs, but sometimes it's possible or not, but we are trying everything.
Rob, Ruben Amorim says that they're trying everything. Do you think they need to do something in this transfer window, or do they need to take a step back and then focus on the summer window?
I think the number one is the transfer window, because I think they're really starting to plan now for the summer, because a club like Manchester United, they're going to be ideally in a situation where they're 6 months ahead. So in order to get to the summer, first of all, you have to figure out what is your budgets, what does it look, what does the club look like now, and that's why I think people like Marcus Rashford going to Villa, that's been on the table. The possibility of young players like Garnacho, maybe Mainu, moving on, is to balance the books, is to start preparing for what are we going to have in the summer? How do we get players? How do we get money and budgets correct? Well, we also need to release players, because like one of the letters from Manchester United this past couple of weeks was that they're in danger of PSR. So they're starting to clearly plan for that, and also plan for what does a Ruben Amorim team look like, and what does he need? So in order to get that, they're going to have to do it in the summer.
Talking of Ruben Amorim, though, what have you made of his start as Manchester United's head coach?
Do you know what? I think the number one thing, I really like him. I like who he is. I like how he represents himself. I love how honest he is. He's very truthful. He's very passionate. So I love that about him. And I tell you, it's been very, very difficult. I think what he's realized is this job is harder than what he predicted and anything that he could have imagined. This is way harder than that. And I think there's been a lot of things that maybe he didn't see, because, for example, he's looking at Manchester United moving from Sporting, and he's looking at it and thinking, oh, I'm going to have a young Garnacho, I'm going to have a young Mainu, I'm going to have a Rashford, I'm going to have a Xerxes just come in, a Højlund, young players. Look at the back. Euro is coming. I got a Martinez, De Ligt has just come in. I've got a decent team. We can add to that. And he's found that maybe all of those players are not going to play for him. They're not the right players for him. And I think that's where his big thing is going to be in the next 3 months. But I like him. I think he's the right guy for Manchester United. Are they going to be able to improve? And improve, I mean, on the pitch is in results, the right people, the right players that he needs, because what he's done is he spent a few months looking at playing everybody and saying, who's with me? Who's with this Manchester United project and who is not? And I think he's starting to realise who's not right now.
Carve, Rob says that he is the right guy. What have you made of the media reaction to Ruben Amorim? Do you think they've been fair with him, or do you think that maybe Ruben Amorim's almost playing a blinder here because of all of these comments that he's coming out with? He's almost put the focus on the players, hasn't he?
I think, look, the media, we obviously love Ruben Amorim because he's a breath of fresh air. He says what he thinks. He's very honest. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You know, he said a couple of controversial things that people thought he may have sort of got a rap on the knuckles from the people upstairs at United. The first one was when he said this is the worst United team ever. But even though he said that, a player like Mathys Tel, who people were saying he could be the next Kylian Mbappe, he still wants to come to Manchester United. Then he said that he'd rather have his 63-year-old goalkeeping coach on the bench than Marcus Rashford. And people said, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? That is going to affect what Manchester United are going to be able to get for Marcus Rashford. Well, fast forward a couple of days and it hasn't, because on paper it looks like United are getting a pretty decent deal from Aston Villa. Or is it a £40 million option to buy? Aston Villa potentially paying up to 90% of his wages. So I don't think Ruben Amorim, being honest, has actually ended up hurting Manchester United that much. I think the bigger picture at Manchester United is that I don't really want to kick a club when they're down, but the fall off has just been incredible to witness, because a year, 18 months ago, we were talking about the possibility of new Qatari owners coming into Manchester United, and they were going to pay off all the debts. They were going to build a new stadium. They were going to regenerate the whole area around Old Trafford. It was going to be, you know, a project to make Manchester United great again. They meant business. Now, you think every week it's almost worse than it's ever been at Manchester United. You know, I mean, under Ed Woodward, Manchester United were in the top 4 and people were complaining and saying it was a disaster and wanting him out. I'm not saying that things weren't bad under Ed Woodward, but now when you look back at those days, you almost, if you're a United fan, you miss those days because, okay, you weren't winning the title, but under Jose Mourinho, you were finishing second. Under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there was still an exciting team and good results, and perhaps United should have stayed with him. So, having said that, I don't want to kick them when they're down. I'm just going to finish off by saying that I don't want to talk about it because, you know, has there ever been a club who have gone from such heights to such depths? And if you ask my personal opinion about why it's happened, I would say it's pretty much all because of the ownership model. And I think any club in the world who have the ownership model that Manchester United have would struggle in the same way eventually.
There's been so many changes in football over the last few years. I think the teams that have got good structures, good people, use data to recruit the right players and have really good people around that recruitment process are the ones that are catching up with the top 6 or the historic top 6. No longer is it about how much money you've got because everyone's got loads of money. They can all go and attract some of the best players from European football. But you look at Brentford, you look at Bournemouth, look at Brighton, look at Forest. They're all doing better than the likes of Spurs and Manchester United now. Why? And I think you look at every single one of those clubs.
It's no surprise when those sides beat United. It's not a shock today that Crystal Palace have beaten Manchester United. No. It's not a shock when Brighton or Bournemouth beat Manchester United. It's almost expected. This is where United are.
Yeah, and because these teams have got such good structures in place and they've done so much good work with recruitment, they've built really good squads, they're coached really well, they've got really good head coaches, that the gap's gone now. And Manchester United have been, you know, they say they want to be best in class, but over the last few years, they haven't been best in class, and that's why they've been caught up.
Rob, you obviously played at a time when Manchester United were at their absolute pomp. Can you actually believe the fall-off since when you were playing to what they are now?
No, I can't believe that. I think it's such a huge drop. It's such a huge drop in who Manchester United are. Because when I was playing against Manchester United, you almost went into the game thinking, wow, this is one of the best teams. You look on the side, Alex Ferguson's on the side. You look over here, is Ronaldo's playing. You look at the centre-backs, it's Rio Ferdinand. You look in midfield, there's Scholes, there's Keane, and Van Nistelrooy's over there. And I remember the feeling of, this is so tough. But they're top players. But I think the biggest thing is, and the biggest job Ruben Amorim is faced now is, I think the biggest thing is not who the players are, and it's not who they're going to sign, is can you build the culture of winning, the culture of elite professionals in your football club. And it's not the star name that's going to make you better and get back to that level. It's going to be the culture of elite professional masters at work. That's, I think, his biggest job. And I think that's what he's trying to find out, because it's about, okay, who has that already? And then who can we bring in to add to that and continue to build this Ruben Amorim project?
One of those star names that's on his way out is Marcus Rashford. When you look at that situation and you've got someone who is one of their own, effectively, and is now leaving the football club, given what's happened in the last 18 months to 2 years, what's your overriding emotion about what's happened to Rashford?
For me, like I said earlier, as the romantic football fan of wanting to see a talented player do so well, I'm very sad, because I want Marcus Rashford to do well. I want to see him flying down the wing, and I think, wow, look at his pace, look at his dribbling. What about his cross? What about that finish? I want to say that about Marcus Rashford. So it's sad that I'm not getting to see that, and I'm not seeing that often. And we want Marcus Rashford to be on that level. I hope this Aston Villa move is that But that's my overriding feeling of the Marcus Rashford situation, because he is a young player that's come through the system at Manchester United. He's been there and he's been a great player at times. But the last 2.5 years, your level has dropped completely. And unfortunately, because it's dropped so bad, so low, you now have to move on because you're now not at the elite level. It's up to you whether you want to get back to there. That's going to be the test. That is going to be the test. But you're not at that level. And I think it's one player, and let's not forget there's other players involved with it, that is not contributed to the last 2-3 years of Manchester United's culture dropping down to a low level.
Well, just a reminder that that deal has been agreed with Aston Villa, a loan with an option to buy Marcus Rashford on his way out of Manchester United and on his way to Aston Villa. Stay with us because we will be speaking Arsenal after the break and hearing from their manager, Mikel Arteta. Hi there, welcome back to the Transfer Show. Bit of breaking news to bring you, and it concerns Chelsea. Carve, what you got?
Yes, we were talking about half an hour or so ago about Carney Chukwuemeka and Sky Germany saying that he was close to agreeing a loan move to Borussia Dortmund. That, according to Sky Germany, has now been agreed. So the player will be moving to Borussia Dortmund on loan until the end of the season. And also Dortmund will have an option to buy the player in the summer. He's still, I think, only 20 or 21. Chelsea signed him for £20 million 2.5 years ago from Aston Villa. The most important thing for Chelsea was that he was playing regularly. They were really insistent wherever he goes to on loan, he needs to be playing regularly. And obviously Borussia Dortmund have a brilliant record when it comes to taking players from English football, like Jude Bellingham, for instance, Jadon Sancho as well. So it looks like potentially a very good deal for Carney Chukwuemeka and Chelsea and Borussia Dortmund.
Might not be the only one leaving Chelsea before deadline day.
No, I think there's still big possibilities. For instance, Axel Disasi, he could be moving to Aston Villa on loan. Spurs are trying to sign him on loan as well. I think Chelsea would prefer it if he goes to Spurs. I think they're a little bit concerned about him going to Aston Villa, considering the fact that they are both trying to get one of those Champions League places, so they don't want to strengthen a rival. Ben Chilwell as well, somebody who's really sort of been frozen out of the picture at Chelsea. Enzo Maresca made it clear last summer that he didn't see a future for him at Stamford Bridge. I think he's only played once this season, coming on as a substitute in a cup game against Barrow. Crystal Palace really interested in signing him. He's a big earner at Chelsea, one of the top earners left at Stamford Bridge. So I think wages could be an issue if he's going to move to Crystal Palace, but obviously good relations between Palace and Chelsea as well. We saw Trevor Chalobah moving to Palace in the summer, then coming back a couple of weeks ago. Finally, still question marks about João Felix. I know Aston Villa really want to sign him. AC Milan interested in him as well. The latest information we have on him this evening is that he will not be moving to Aston Villa as things stand. He'll either stay at Chelsea or move abroad.
Bit of breaking news to bring you. It concerns Evan Ferguson. Remember, we were telling you throughout the day that Brighton and West Ham United had agreed a deal that would see Ferguson go to the London Stadium on loan until the end of the season. He's completed his medical. I'm told in the past few minutes that Evan Ferguson has in fact passed that medical, which we expected to happen, and a formal announcement of his move from Brighton to West Ham United is expected on deadline day. West Ham will pay a loan fee, we're told, and will cover his wages. There's also another story that's been bubbling along that Carve has been covering as well in Elie Junior Krupi from Lorient. I'm told at this stage, even though West Ham had made an offer, at the moment it's unlikely that will happen. things can, of course, change on deadline day. And remember, West Ham United still working on a deal with Celtic to sign Daniel Cummings until the end of the season. Remember, they've already got him close to signing him on a pre-contract agreement because he's into the final 6 months of his contract, but they might still try and explore the possibility of signing him now ahead of that pre-contract in the summer. So a reminder, Evan Ferguson has passed his medical at West Ham United ahead of moving on loan from Brighton. That should be announced tomorrow. Now, Arsenal are yet to bring in a player during this transfer window, but could they bring in a striker before tomorrow's deadline?
How necessary is it that you get something in? But then I guess you don't want to leave yourself in a situation in the summer where you've eaten into your budget and PSR constraints and stuff like that.
No, it's about the intentions, and the intention, I think we've been very clear from every angle what we want to do, and the other one is the reality and what you are able to do.
So it's possible.
It's always possible.
A glint in his eye, wasn't there, Carve? Anything is possible. Is Mathys Tel from Bayern Munich possible?
I think it is. I think the player wants to go to Manchester United. Bayern Munich not letting him move to United on just a loan with an option. They want a permanent deal or an obligation because they had a £50 million permanent deal lined up with Spurs. Sky Germany telling us this evening that there is still a possibility that Arsenal come in for the player. I know we've been saying that Tel wants to move to Manchester United, but if he has a look at the league table and if he was watching Sky Germany this afternoon, their live coverage of Arsenal-Manchester City, I'm sure he will have been impressed with how Arsenal played as well. So I think there still is the possibility that he could move to Arsenal. There is still time for Arsenal to sign Ollie Watkins as well. They made this bid 6 days ago, £40 million. They were considering whether to go back in for him. Do you want to pay more than £40 million for a player who's 29? A lot of people think that Arsenal should do that because he's exactly the kind of player they're looking for, could help them win the title. And we've seen Aston Villa, OK, they've sold John Duran to Al Nassr, but they've bought in Marcus Rashford. They're bringing in Marco Asensio. They're trying to bring in João Felix as well, although that looks like it's not going to happen. Does that mean that potentially they are thinking, OK, if we got a bigger offer for Ollie Watkins, we may be prepared to let him go tomorrow? I'm not sure.
Rob, Arsenal, of course, beat the champions 5-1 today. Now, after the game, Jamie Carragher asked Thierry Henry the question, do Arsenal need to sign a striker in the final few hours if they're going to have a chance to win the title? I'm not Jamie Carragher or Thierry Henry. You're probably closer to either of those, but I'm going to ask you the same question. Do they have to do that?
I think they have to, yeah. I think they need to add the consistent goals, because what you saw today is 5-1, yeah, great on paper, looks glamorous, but inside the game we all watched and thought Havertz is struggling. And what we've also seen 2, 3, 4, and the rest of the season is Havertz has struggled for consistent goals. And I think that's where they're missing, because you look at Arsenal's team at the back, you look at Gabriel, you look at Saliba, you look at the goalkeeper, you look at midfield, and you just see high-level quality. You see some of the best players in the Premier League. And where you don't see it is in that striker position, in Kai Havertz, who generally plays in that position, in maybe a Trossard, who plays in those positions, and Martinelli. So that you're not seeing the best players in that position. And what Arsenal want is the best players in their positions. So for me, I think it's a teaser that they go 40 million for Ollie Watkins, because it's almost a starting bid. It's not your real bid. And I think if you go up to 50, maybe 60, I think you pay it. The other one, maybe, we talked about Ollie Watkins, just thinking in a different way, is could they surprise us and go for somebody like Nkunku, somebody like that from Chelsea? I think somebody like that would add quality to an Arsenal team. So there's different ways to do it, but for me, you sign Ollie Watkins and pay what you need.
We should also say about Kai Havertz as well, he scored 13 Premier League goals last season. He scored against Manchester City today. That made it 9 already this season, with quite a number of games to go. So is that an argument that maybe, look, things aren't as bad as some Arsenal fans would have you believe?
Of course it's not. Because, listen, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's a very good player. But I think he's more of a 10 than a striker in the position that he's playing. And he should be scoring that in this Arsenal team. Let's face it, because he's probably missed double that amount of chances. So he maybe should be on at least 19 to 20 if we're talking about top level. I think that's where the feeling from the Arsenal fans is.
You mentioned Nkunku to Arsenal, possible?
I mean, listen,
they've done business between themselves before.
Yeah, I mean, they did business on deadline day last time round with Raheem Sterling, moving from Chelsea to Arsenal. I get the sense that with the current ownership at Chelsea, they are willing to trade players if the deals are right and the prices are right. So I think they would be willing to sell Nkunku to Arsenal if they got what they were looking for. But it's not something that I've heard anything on recently. But obviously, if he's a player that Mikel Arteta admires and thinks would improve their side, then the lines of communication are always open between the clubs.
Can I just say one quick thing on this? We're into the business end of the season. If you go and win the Champions League, historically, as Chelsea have proven, it's worth 120, 130 million pounds. So if Arsenal go and invest, say 60, into a player that takes them to that kind of level, they could get their money back within 6 months.
All they have to do is win the Champions League.
I make it sound so simple. but from a financial perspective, that investment now could be worth it if they to progress. If everyone believes that Arsenal are just that one player short of getting to where they need to be, a Premier League title, a Champions League, winning silverware, then actually, could it be worth just investing in the next 24 hours? Because that could be the difference between them ending the season with 1 trophy, 2 trophies, or 0 trophies.
Just very quickly, Mark, from Arsenal to Spurs, done deal. What can you tell us?
Yeah, this is what Tottenham Hotspur fans have been crying out for throughout the course of this window. A new signing, and it's in an area of concern for Ange Postecoglou. They finally got a centre-back in. You can see the official club announcement now. Kevin Danso confirmed on loan with an obligation to turn that into a permanent move from Lens. He's a player that's been in the UK before as a youngster. He'll add much-needed cover there to a position where they've been severely weakened. And hopefully, Tottenham fans will be saying this is the first of a signing or 2 or 3 in the last 25 hours or so of the window.
Good maths. Right, plenty more to come. Next, we'll hear from Jordan Henderson, who has hit back strongly at Dutch reporters who question his commitment to Ajax. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Not long now until deadline day. My maths is correct. What are we looking at? 25 hours, 24 minutes until the window slams shut. Always slams shut, Mark.
It does.
Yes, let's get the latest on a couple of deals being worked on tonight. Just a reminder on Evan Ferguson. He has passed his medical at West Ham United ahead of his loan move from Brighton. Remember, West Ham will pay a loan fee and cover his wages for the rest of the season. It will reunite him with the man who gave him his debut, of course, Graham Potter, now the manager at West Ham United. Mark, Rashford to Aston Villa. How close are we?
Super close now, just waiting for official confirmation. Had his medical today. Some reports are suggesting that medical has been completed. Only a matter of time now before Aston Villa confirm Marcus Rashford from Manchester United on loan.
So it's when, not if, with regard to Marcus Rashford, but it might be if with regard to Manchester United's plans to bring in a forward to replace him.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a reporter here at Sky Sports News called Dharmesh Sheth, who has got very good contacts at Manchester United. And I was speaking to Dharmesh before I came on this evening, and I've been keeping in touch with him during the breaks as well. And what he's telling me is, at the moment, it looks unlikely that Manchester United will be bringing another player in. Now, I trust Dharmesh. He's never let me down before. What he's saying to me is they've looked at Leon Bailey from Aston Villa on loan. That is unlikely at the moment. And he's also saying to me, Tel, that is looking unlikely at the moment as well. Now, I wasn't too sure about how good Darmesh's contacts were with Tel, so I also rang my colleagues at Sky Germany, but they have backed up what Darmesh told me as well, because Sky Germany is saying negotiations for Tel have collapsed, even though the player wants to move to Manchester United. Arsenal's still in the race for Tel as well. So that is the latest from Darmesh Sheth and also Sky Germany. I will be speaking to him again during the break. I will update you.
Thanks. Now, Jordan Henderson has hit back at Dutch reporters who question his commitment to Ajax after he was linked with a move to Monaco during this transfer window. The former England international had a simple response to questions over his professionalism following his side's 2-1 win over Feyenoord. Listen to this.
That you wanted to go to Monaco.
The coach told you that I wanted to go to Monaco?
Yeah, because you had the big offer.
Because I had a big offer?
Yeah.
It's not true.
No. But did Ajax tell you they wanted to sell you?
Did I say they wanted to sell us?
Yeah.
Well, they were negotiating, so I'd imagine they did, yeah. But again, Mike, it's not about the details. I'm not giving you details. I know the truth. I know what happened. I'm not here to give you details. I'm just here to tell you from my side.
But you say it's not true. Can you give details about the conversation with Alex?
No, I don't need to. I don't need to. You can, though.
I can.
It sounds like you can, anyway. I'm angry because the stuff that was written was personal and untrue. I suppose if someone writes a story about you that's untrue, that goes out to millions of people through social media, and your family read it, how do you feel?
Blimey. Rob Earnshaw,
Wow.
have you ever been in a position like that when you are in front of the press and you're having a right pop?
I've been in positions in front of the media, yeah, absolutely, and they throw a question at you, and they've got an objective to what they want, and obviously you're trying to tell a certain different direction of what you want to say. So yeah, I've been in that position. It's very difficult in front of media, and they've got their objectives and their questions. And for example, Jordan Henderson he's there with a possible move, and I know he had a fallout with the Ajax situation there about a move to Monaco. It's not quite happened. He's saying there's some lies in it because of the reports. So it's a difficult situation. But also, that's your platform. You know, if there is a different story to what's being said, for me, tell the story. Tell your narrative. Tell the actual truth to what it is, because that's your platform right there.
I think the reason Jordan was so upset is that some reports had appeared saying that he wasn't going to play for Ajax again and he was demanding a move to Monaco. And I think that is what he was angry about. He was saying that those reports were inaccurate. Yes, it's true that Ajax were talking to Monaco about me moving to France, but I never demanded a move and I never said that I wouldn't play for Ajax again. And he's been as good as his word because he's played for Ajax and he's going to stay until the end of the season at least.
Mark, before we head to the break, bit of breaking news.
Yeah, I was busy on my phone over the course of the last 20 minutes or so, just confirming this news. This one concerns Brighton and Hove Albion. Once again, we always like to keep an eye on what they do in the transfer window. But Brighton are closing in on a transfer deadline day deal for the sought-after Nuremberg striker, Stefanos Simas. Simas has been out on loan from PAOK. PAOK and Nuremberg have now exercised their option to buy him. Brighton have been negotiating a permanent deal for Simas that will see him stay with the German club for the rest of this season. Bayern Munich also understood to be keeping tabs on the 19-year-old who has scored 10 league goals in 17 appearances this season. That's in the Bundesliga 2, the second division in Germany. He's a player that's also been watched by Liverpool and Tottenham. So once again, Brighton look like they've got one for the future in this transfer window. Brighton fans won't see him over the course of this season because he's going to be sent back out on loan, but he will link up with Fabian Hürzeler's squad in the summer. Could be a name we talk about in a few years' time. Once again, great business by Brighton.
Yeah, impossible replacement, you would think, for the man going on loan to West Ham United in Evan Ferguson. Right, Stay with us because after the break, we'll be getting everyone's deadline day predictions and we'll be grilling Rob Earnshaw about a particular move that didn't happen. All I'm going to say that he was on the hard shoulder of a motorway waiting for the call. Stay with us.
If been there 7 years, come through the youth system, the clubs are in trouble. They need money. They accept the bid from West Brom. So I arrive on there, I think it was the Wednesday, oh, sorry, it was the Tuesday. I arrive, we've accepted a bid from West Brom. So I was like, okay. And then I hear through my agent at the time, there's other teams interested. But the agreement was with West Brom, but it's a couple of days before deadline. So that afternoon, we have the conversations, my agent, we do the deal and say, yeah, okay, fine, we want to move to West Brom. We're on the way up to West Brom to sign for West Brom. A phone call comes, Everton are interested. We're like, okay. Right now, I mean, obviously that's a great move. Everton at the time are in the top 6, top 7 in the Premier League.
Under David Moyes.
Yeah. Big move. Of course, that would be of interest. So we start the drive up to West Brom. We're on the way to West Brom. We stop halfway because we have another phone call saying, well, listen, don't sign for West Brom. We're still interested. Can we do some kind of deal? So we park up. We stop literally on the way up. We stop on the side of the hard shoulder on the motorway. And for literally 10 minutes, my agent's like, well, we're going to need to stop here because we either go this way or that way. He's on the phone. So he's like, listen, it's not safe, whatever. We get back in the car, drive to the next services and say, we'll finish the phone call there. In the end, the deal wasn't done. We went one way, went to West Brom, still ended up going to the Premier League. But we took a different turn, and the deal never got done with Everton at the time. And that's how the story goes. Another one, fast forward, 2012, I'm back at Cardiff for the second time, years and years later, and Ali McCoist rings me up. He's Rangers manager at the time. And I'm thinking, Ali, what's going on? How are you? All right, son. So he calls me up, he said, listen, and this is deadline. When I mean deadline, we have 2 hours before the deadline window. And this was, I think, this was the January transfer window. I want to sign you, come up here, score some goals, have some fun. And this is Ali McCoist, and I'm like, love this. And at the time, I wanted to make a move. And there was always Rangers, Celtic, there was always that discussion. But anyway, he was the one I favoured because I just loved his enthusiasm. He's like, come on, move. So Cardiff phoned me, yeah, get to the stadium, get the deal done. So I start getting my car. There's 2 hours to go. I get in my car, go up. I'm heading towards the Cardiff City Stadium to sign for Rangers under Ali McCoist. So we'll do the medical there, we'll do the paperwork there, and everything will be done there. I'm on the way there. I'm 5 minutes before the stadium. Ali calls me, sorry, son, we can't get the deal done. There's some paperwork issues, and we just won't be able to get it done in time, even though we want to. So I was 5 minutes from signing for Rangers at Cardiff City Stadium. And yeah, crazy. I mean, there's lots of that kind of happened throughout my career, but crazy. Obviously great to tell the stories now.
Things change all the time on deadline day, and that's the one thing you can be guaranteed of. I remember a quick deadline day when I was at Bournemouth. I think it was their second season in the Premier League after they'd been promoted, and they were signing Jack Wilshere on deadline day.
Oh, yeah.
And we were given the information, yeah, locked in, he's going to come on loan from Arsenal, the deal is good. On the day of that deadline day, he got a phone call from David Beckham to say, would you be interested in going to AC Milan? Because obviously Beckham had been at AC Milan, so they'd used David Beckham as the salesman to try and get Jack Wilshere to go to AC Milan in Serie A. And I think there was a moment where Jack went, I'm going to say no to David Beckham and AC Milan to join Bournemouth here, but that we were stood there on deadline day and there was a moment where it was hanging in the balance and you think, well, which way is it going to swing? And luckily for Bournemouth fans, they got Jack Wilshere. But these things happen on deadline day. The amount of times I've been there at a training ground expecting a player to arrive or even seeing a player arrive and the deal still doesn't get done.
Yeah. OK, let's get a few deadline day predictions Carve, let's start with you. Who are Aston Villa going to sign?
Well, they've already got Rashford. Asensio is coming as well. So we believe that the move for João Felix is off at the moment. I think the most important thing now for Aston Villa is to keep hold of Ollie Watkins.
OK, Rob, one for you. Carve mentioned Marcus Rashford. Will Marcus Rashford be a success, and what would constitute a success for him for the rest of the season?
Success is seeing him flowing at his very best. That means scoring goals. That means working very, very hard. That means pressing like Aston Villa do. That means being a fan's favourite, you know, because in that position you have to be, because you're doing well, you're scoring goals. That's success. And also contributing, making Aston Villa better. I am actually 50-50 on this, whether I'm going to see that or not. I would love to see it, but I don't know if I will.
Okay. Success for Marcus Rashford is being happy on and off the pitch. Happy in himself, loving life, smiling whilst he plays football. That's success for the rest of this season.
Lovely. Carve, good to see you smiling as well. Do Arsenal sign a striker?
I think they shouldn't sign a striker. I think they should wait until the summer and get Gyökeres from Sporting.
Oh, wow.
And I think that would send a message out to the Arsenal players as well that Mikel Arteta believes in them and they can win the title with this group of players.
Rob, if they were to sign one, Tel or Watkins?
Tel or Watkins? To be honest with you, when we discussed this recently, I think, for me, for Arsenal, Gyökeres is a better option than both of them. I like Ollie Watkins. I think you go for him. If you can't, for me, the number one, Gyökeres.
Mark McAdam, have Manchester City made a mistake by not signing a defensive midfielder yet?
Yeah, it's still, 25 hours or so to go, so there's still a chance they could bring someone in. I think, obviously, no Rodri, no Partey. They're struggling without him at the moment. I think if they could get someone in that can do that role, that'll make a massive difference to them. But I think the jury's out on what Man City have done in the course of the last 4 weeks. I think there's big questions that are going to be asked of those players and those signings. OK,
one for each of you. Start with you, Carve. Which manager's going to wake up Tuesday morning frustrated he hasn't done more?
Ruben Amorim.
Mark?
I'd say Eddie Howe, but it's because of PSR as opposed to not doing stuff, just not got the ability to do stuff.
And Rob?
Ange Postecoglou. I think Big Ange.
OK.
I think he's going to be the most frustrated that he hasn't done more.
OK. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Rob Earnshaw, thanks for your company. Mark McAdam, Carve, thank you very much indeed. Mark, you're where tomorrow?
Southampton/Bournemouth, depends on who does the most business. I will be driving down the M27.
And Carve is here, there and everywhere. Thank you very much indeed. Right.
You got something to say?
I need to go and call Darmish.
Do not forget, it is deadline day tomorrow and you will not miss a thing. Sky Sports News coverage gets underway from 7 a.m. There are bound to be lots of twists and turns. And talking of twists and turns, have we seen another one in the title race? Pep Guardiola is not happy. Erling Haaland's been humbled. That's because Mikel Arteta's Arsenal had beaten the champions by 5 goals to 1. More next.